My name's Ryan. I'm 24. And my wife, Amber, is 26. We've been married just over a year. We live in a small apartment outside Dallas. Life's been hard lately. Her dad's been fighting cancer for months, and the doctors told the family there wasn't much time left. Amber's been breaking down a lot. I've tried to be there for her. I've taken over most chores, cooking, and driving her to see him every weekend. I'm tired, but she's hurting worse, and I know it. Last week, she came home from work with red eyes and a blank stare. She sat down next to me on the couch and didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, she whispered, "I just need to stop thinking for a while. I want to have some drinks and unwind." Her voice was flat. I nodded and said I'd pick some up. Then she asked, "Can we invite Mike and Kelsey too? I need to be around friends." To be honest, I didn't want to. I was worn out, and the thought of hosting people felt heavy. But she was looking at me with that tired, pleading look. So I forced a small smile and said, "Yeah, babe, whatever makes you feel better." That Friday, I cleaned up the apartment after work while she showered. I set out chips, got the drinks chilled, and tried to make it look nice. I kept thinking to myself, she deserves a break. She's going through hell. Just let her have this. When Mike and Kelsey arrived, Amber seemed to perk up a little. She hugged them tightly and kept telling them how glad she was that they came. We put on some music, and they started talking about old college stories. I sat back on the couch with my beer, half listening, half thinking about bills and work. I looked over at Amber, who was laughing at something Mike said. For a moment, I felt relieved to see her smile. She needed to smile. She poured herself a glass of vodka and orange juice. Then another, then one more. I watched her movements get looser. Her laughs got louder. Her words started slurring a bit. I tried to catch her eye and give her a little slow down shake of my head, but she ignored it. At one point, I whispered, "Hey, maybe switch to water for a bit." She brushed my hand away and snapped, "I'm fine, Ryan. Stop babying me." I pulled back and stayed quiet after that. She deserved a night without me nagging. That's what I told myself. I just wanted to be a good husband. If this was what she needed to feel better, who was I to stop it? I remember sitting there feeling small, like nothing I did really helped her, like I was just there to clean up after the storm. Then she got up suddenly with her arms stretched out toward me. My chest warmed a little, thinking she wanted a hug. I opened my arms back to her, but she walked right past me. At first, the night felt normal. Music played softly in the background, and Mike and Kelsey were chatting about work. Amber laughed at every joke, sipping her drinks fast. I kept watching her glass empty and refill. I tried not to say anything, but each time she poured another drink, my chest tightened. She started swaying a bit in her chair, her hair falling in her face. Kelsey asked if she was okay, and Amber just giggled and said, "I'm perfect." I leaned in and whispered, "Maybe slow down." "Babe!" She rolled her eyes and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "God. Ryan, stop being such a dad." The room went quiet for a moment. Then Mike laughed awkwardly, and the conversation picked up again. I felt my face get hot with embarrassment, but I stayed silent. I kept thinking, let her have fun. She's grieving. This isn't about you tonight. After a few more drinks, Amber's laughter turned into loud, breathy giggles. She leaned back in her chair, staring up at the ceiling like she was lost in thought. Then she stood up suddenly and turned toward me with her arms out. My heart jumped. For a second, I thought she wanted me. I started to get up, arms open, ready to hold her, but she walked right past me. She walked over to Mike, who was sitting on the couch behind me, and without a word, she sat down on his lap. My stomach dropped. The whole room went silent again. Mike froze, looking like he wanted to disappear. Amber wrapped her arms around his shoulders and laid her head against his chest. Then she started talking. At first, it was quiet whining about her dad. "He's dying," she said. Her words slurred. "My dad is dying, and I'm just so sad." Mike tried to move her off him, but she clung tighter. Then her voice changed. "You know what really sucks," she said, lifting her head up to look around the room, eyes glassy. "My husband, he can't even make me feel good in bed. I'm so sad all the time, and I just want him to make it better, but he can't." My ears started ringing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I wanted to move, to speak, but I felt glued to the spot. She kept going. "He's so pathetic. He tries so hard. But it's like, ugh." She made a gagging sound and laughed. Honestly, I think my dying dad would give me a better time than him. I felt my knees go weak. The words didn't even make sense, but they cut deeper than anything she'd ever said before. The room was dead silent. Kelsey had her hand over her mouth, eyes wide. Mike just sat frozen, looking at me like he was apologizing with his eyes. I stood there staring at Amber. For a moment, she looked back at me, her eyes unfocused. She didn't even look embarrassed. She looked empty. Then I turned and walked out of the room. I walked straight down the hall to our bedroom. My legs felt like lead. As soon as I closed the door behind me, my body gave out. I slid down against the wall and buried my face in my hands. The sobs came fast and hard. My chest ached like it was splitting open. I don't even know how long I sat there crying. My mind kept replaying her words over and over. My dying dad would give me a better time than him. It made my stomach twist with nausea. It wasn't just the insult. It was how empty her voice sounded, how little I seemed to matter in that moment. I wiped my face and looked around our bedroom. The bed was unmade, blankets half on the floor. Her makeup bag was still open on the dresser, brushes scattered everywhere. I could smell her perfume lingering in the air. I felt like a ghost in my own life. I didn't want to be there anymore. I grabbed my phone and keys, walked back into the living room without looking at anyone, and left. I heard her call out behind me. Her voice slurred. "Ryan, where are you going?" I didn't answer. The drive to my brother's place was a blur. The roads were mostly empty that late at night. Streetlights passed overhead like pale ghosts. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles hurt. Tears kept falling down my cheeks. I wiped them away, but they wouldn't stop. My chest felt hollow. I kept thinking, what did I do wrong? How did we end up here? When I got to his apartment, I texted him from the parking lot. "Can I crash here tonight?" He replied right away. "Doors open." I walked in quietly. He was sitting on the couch watching TV. He took one look at my face and muted it. "What happened?" he asked softly. I shook my head. "I can't talk about it right now." He didn't push me. He just stood up, gave me a quick hug, and pointed to the guest room. "Get some sleep, man." I laid down on his couch bed, staring up at the ceiling in the dark. My tears had stopped, but my chest still hurt. I thought about Amber, about how happy she looked when we first started dating, about how I promised her I'd always protect her, about how small and worthless she made me feel tonight. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but my mind kept spinning with her words, her laughter, the way she ignored me completely. I wondered if things could ever go back to normal after this. The next morning, I woke up on my brother's couch with a stiff neck and burning eyes. My phone was buzzing nonstop. When I finally picked it up, I saw 10 missed calls from Amber. There were almost 100 messages waiting. I scrolled through them with a heavy chest. At first, they were full of apologies. "Ryan, I'm so sorry. Please come home. I didn't mean any of it. I was drunk. I love you so much." Then, as the messages went on, they turned sharp. "You're overreacting. I was having a hard night. You're making this about yourself. You're being selfish. Don't you care about what I'm going through?" Reading them made my stomach twist. I closed my phone and stared at the ceiling for a long time. My brother came in with coffee and set it down next to me. He didn't say anything. He just sat on the arm of the couch, his hand resting on my shoulder. I felt so tired. I thanked him, got dressed, and told him I needed to grab some things from home. Driving back felt like driving to my own funeral. My chest was tight the whole way. When I walked in, the apartment smelled like stale alcohol and old candles. Amber was sitting on the floor in her pajamas, eyes swollen from crying. She looked up at me with relief. "Ryan," she whispered, standing up and reaching for me. I didn't say anything. I walked past her into our bedroom and pulled out a suitcase. I started folding my clothes into it one by one. Behind me, she started sobbing. "Please, Ryan, don't do this. I'm so sorry. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. You know I love you." I paused, holding one of my shirts in my hands. My chest felt heavy and empty at the same time. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to turn around and hold her and tell her it was okay. But every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice from last night. My dying dad would give me a better time than him. It echoed in my skull like poison. She kept talking, her words desperate and broken. "I'm just grieving. I'm losing my dad. I didn't mean any of it. Please don't leave me. I'll be better. I promise I'll be better." I zipped my suitcase closed and finally looked at her. Her face was blotchy and streaked with tears. For a second, I almost caved, but then I felt that hollow ache again. The memory of everyone in that room staring at me while she tore me apart. "I can't do this, Amber," I said quietly. "I'm sorry." I picked up my suitcase and walked out the door. As I closed it behind me, I heard her sobs turn into wails. Walking down the apartment hallway, I felt numb. When I reached my car, I sat in the driver's seat for a long time before starting the engine. Driving away, I kept asking myself, am I doing the right thing? Am I being cruel? But then I remembered how small I felt last night, how broken, and I knew I couldn't stay. The days after I left felt heavy and slow. I stayed at my brother Matt's place. He set up a spot for me on his living room couch, and every morning, he made us coffee before work. We didn't talk much about what happened at first. He could tell I was too raw to speak. On the second morning, I woke up before sunrise. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the fridge. I scrolled through my phone again. Amber's messages were endless. Some were soft and apologetic. "Please come home. I'm so sorry." I don't even remember saying those things. "I love you so much." Then a few hours later, the tone changed. "You're abandoning me when I need you the most. You're a terrible husband. You know I was drunk and grieving. How could you leave me for that?" Reading her words felt like getting punched in the chest again and again. Part of me wanted to go back, hold her, tell her we could fix it. But another part of me couldn't forget the way her words burned through me. I kept hearing her voice, slurred and sharp, telling everyone how worthless I was. Later that day, Matt sat down next to me after work. He handed me a beer and asked gently, "What are you thinking of doing?" I shook my head. "I don't know. I feel like an asshole for leaving her when she's losing her dad. But I just can't get those words out of my head." He leaned back and sighed. "Listen, man, I get that she's going through hell, but what she said, that wasn't okay. Drunk or not, you gotta think long term. Do you really want to live, wondering what she actually thinks about you?" I didn't answer him. I just stared down at the beer in my hands, feeling sick to my stomach. I knew he was right, but guilt clawed at me anyway. I kept thinking about how broken she looked when I walked out, and it made my chest ache. That night, as I lay on the couch staring up at the ceiling fan spinning above me, my mind wouldn't shut off. Maybe I could just go back for a while. I thought, maybe we could take a break instead of ending it for good. Maybe she didn't mean it. Maybe she's just hurting and needed to lash out at someone close. But then I pictured her sitting on Mike's lap, laughing at my expense in front of our friends, and my stomach twisted again. The humiliation felt fresh and raw. It wasn't just about her words. It was about how she made me feel like I was nothing. My phone buzzed again around midnight. Another message from her. "I love you. Please don't leave me. I need you. I promise I'll be better. Please, Ryan." I didn't reply. I turned my phone off and set it on the floor next to the couch. I closed my eyes and pulled the blanket up to my chin, trying to drown out the guilt with the thought that maybe, just maybe, I deserved better than this. The days kept dragging on, each one feeling heavier than the last. One afternoon, my brother Matt handed me a business card. "You should talk to someone," he said softly. "She messed with your head. Come on. You don't have to go through this alone." So, I went. The therapist was a calm woman named Leah. I sat across from her, eyes on the floor, and told her everything. The party, her words, leaving, the guilt. When I finished, there was a long silence. Finally, she spoke. "Ryan, what your wife said wasn't just hurtful. It was humiliating and dehumanizing. That's emotional abuse. You're carrying shame that isn't yours to carry." Hearing that made my chest tighten. Part of me felt relieved someone understood, but another part felt ashamed all over again. In the days after that session, Amber started sending letters to Matt's apartment. Long, handwritten pages filled with apologies and memories of our first dates, our wedding, late-night talks about kids and dreams. She begged me to come home. She wrote, "I'm so sorry. I was drunk and grieving. Please don't throw us away. Please come back." She even got Mike and Kelsey involved. They both texted me saying she was falling apart and needed me. Kelsey said, "She's just grieving her dad. Don't let this be the end." But Mike sent a different message. "Man, what she did was messed up. You didn't deserve that. Don't let anyone guilt you into going back if you're not ready." Their words swirled around in my head every night. lying on Matt's couch, staring at the ceiling. I missed her so badly it hurt. I missed her laugh when she was sober, the way she curled up next to me after a long day, her sleepy kisses in the morning. But then the other memories came flooding in. Her sitting on Mike's lap, laughing while she tore me down in front of everyone, the disgust and pity in their eyes. Some friends told me to forgive her. She was drunk and grieving. They said, she didn't mean it. But others said, words like that come from somewhere deep. You deserve better. Leah asked me in our next session, do you feel safe with her? Ryan, I didn't answer right away. Finally, I shook my head. No, I whispered. She nodded gently. That's your answer. Later that night, I sat alone in Matt's kitchen, staring at the small divorce packet I had printed off earlier. My hands were trembling. I didn't want this. I loved her, but I also knew I couldn't stay with someone who made me feel so small, so worthless. I thought about temporary separation, counseling, maybe finding a way back to each other. But deep down, I knew those words couldn't be taken back. They changed something inside me. For now, I'm leaning toward filing for divorce. I want to do it calmly, without anger or yelling. I just want peace. I still love her. Maybe I always will. But I think loving myself enough to walk away is the only thing left I can do. 2 years have passed since that night, though sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. I finalized the divorce about a year after leaving. Signing those papers was the hardest thing I've ever done. For months afterward, I woke up with guilt sitting heavy on my chest. I kept thinking, maybe I gave up too easily. Maybe I should have stayed and tried harder. But therapy helped me see things clearer. Leah kept reminding me, love without respect or safety isn't love. It's fear. I started believing her. Little by little, the guilt lifted, and I began to breathe freely again. I moved into a small apartment closer to work. At first, the silence felt crushing. I missed her voice in the mornings, her humming while she got ready, the smell of her shampoo. Some nights, I lay awake replaying every memory, wondering if I'd ever stop missing her. But slowly, my life began to rebuild. I took on extra shifts and earned a promotion last year. I started running in the mornings before work, something I never did before. Leah encouraged me to try new things that made me feel strong. I joined a weekend basketball group. I reconnected with old friends I had drifted from during my marriage. I found little joys again, a hot cup of black coffee, quiet sunrises, walking home after dark, feeling peaceful instead of anxious. Amber reached out a few months ago. She sent me an email. The subject line just said, I'm sorry. In it, she wrote that she'd gotten remarried recently. She said her husband was kind and gentle, and that she finally felt happy again. She apologized for everything she said that night. She said she still doesn't remember all of it, but she knows she hurt me in a way that can't be undone. Reading her words didn't hurt like I thought it would. I didn't feel anger or bitterness, just a quiet sadness for what we lost, and acceptance for what is. Sometimes I think back to the night I walked out, suitcase in hand, her sobs echoing behind me. Back then, I thought leaving made me a monster. But now, looking at my life, I see it was the first real act of love I ever gave myself. I learned that love isn't about staying no matter what. It's about knowing when walking away is the only way to keep your dignity. I learned that setting boundaries doesn't make you cruel. It makes you whole. I learned that my worth doesn't come from being needed, but from being respected and cherished. Matt still checks on me every few days. We grab wings and beers after work sometimes, and he never lets me forget how far I've come. Last week he clapped me on the back and said, "Proud of you, little brother. You've grown." I smiled. I still have a long way to go. I'm still figuring out what I want in a partner. But for now, I'm at peace. I wake up each day feeling grateful for my freedom, my healing, and the chance to build a life rooted in dignity and quiet strength.